All right.
There we go. What's up, guys? Thanks for joining. I'm here with Ed Latimore and Alexander Cortez. If you're finding this video from the Twitter sphere that we all met in, you probably know who they are. Uh, this is a really special conversation to me, even though it hasn't happened yet, because when I think about my beginning of my online journey on the internet, a lot of it, a lot of the seeds were planted on Twitter. Like, I think that we all have this in common. But my first influencers, ghost mentors, mutuals, whatever you want to call it, were Ed and Alexander. And they were around since before everything's really taken place online. I feel like before a lot of the developments in not only Twitter, but like the digital economy even formed. So it's really cool to have y'all on today. And that was like back in like 2017, 18 ish.
Even earlier, man. I've been
Earlier than
around.
that.
I've been on around on Twitter so long. Like, but that's back where you could call somebody any name and it didn't matter. Back when Milo Yiannopoulos had an account, like, and they was taking verified badges to punish you.
2015.
So yeah,
Twenty-
like
yeah.
in fact, like yeah, in my mind, for whatever reason, Twitter doesn't materialize as a concept until like the election. And but I was probably in like 2014, 2015, somewhere in there.
Yeah, I remember using it in 2015, and this is before the political landscape, social landscape all changed. But like Ed said, like, I mean, I remember the two of us is tweeting and nobody even knew really what to use it for. There's no concept of personal branding. And in 2016 is when it became really popular because Trump was on Twitter. Everybody was on Twitter. It was a really hot environment. That was before the censorship got super heavy with what you could say, not say. And then I would say right around 2018 is when I remember the concept of money Twitter appearing. And suddenly you could have a brand, you could sell things, you could market things. But there was like a 2-3 year period where nobody took it seriously. Ed, you probably remember this. People would talk shit to you. They're like, "Oh, you're on Twitter. You guys are losers. Why are you even
Right?
Twitter? Why are you even tweeting?" Yeah, and now, I mean, you guys know now. There's people selling $5,000 a month ghostwriting, for tweets services. Every major company in the world now has a Twitter account.
My
It
friends did
changed.
not understand, and I was like, "How could?" Because to me, it seems obvious. Here's a technology that allows you to reach out to a bunch of people around the world, independent of their time zone or even language. And why wouldn't you want that? Like, I didn't even sell anything. The first thing I
Mhm.
sold, not affiliated for, the first thing I sold uh was was engagement is the new cocaine. And
Mhm.
I
I
and that
remember that
dropped
line. It's in my
the
Gumroad
same
too.
week as my is sober letters to my drunken self. So 2018, the winter of
No.
2018, going into 2019. So I didn't even like make any money online for real until the year before I moved to Portugal. Like wow, now I'm thinking about it. Like that is like crazy. You're just chilling, maybe affiliate here and there.
No, I remember 2017 is when that's like when first made. Yeah, what at the time was big money. It was the first version of the Achilles program. I marketed this through Twitter. I had my newsletter, obviously. And I remember the day I launched it and I sold it, I had the notifications like on my phone that were still, live, right? Enter the notifications up. I'd hear the ping. And I launched it, sent the email. I just started getting these pings. Ping, 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 ping. Everything was sale. And they're looking and like that one day was like $3,000 that day. Yeah, it was the most money I've ever made at one time in my life to that point. And one day I was just like, it just changes your whole world. Like, wow. Like this would have been, 2 weeks of salary at least back when I was training, working full time. Like I just did this one day and just kept pinging the whole day. And after that, there was no looking back, right? Like you can never go back to living
Oh
normal
no
life,
way,
working a
man!
normal job.
Uh,
But that was a cool feeling. Like,
For both of you was kind of just like, this is obviously a way to get something out. This is what I do. And it was just a no-brainer. And then from there it grew.
uh, for me, I've always wanted to be a writer, and this just made writing easier. Like I had no real like in my mind, the business model was get a bunch of followers, sell a bunch of books, and you gonna be good, even if it's just ebooks. And then I realized, oh shit, there are other things. You learn about affiliate marketing. You learn, oh, I can make a product because people think I'm cool and all this, like, there are all these things to offer. I didn't. I think one of the big differences between me and Alex is I didn't come in with anything to any skill to put together, but he came up with a training background, so it was a very. I feel like a very natural fit. Once you do it, you're like, oh shit, it's like this is how we gonna eat.
Well, I mean, the thing with ebooks and like, why Twitter, I started writing online in 2012. And I started seeing the social tides change where people would get online for content of any kind, right? We all get online for content now, like television, newspapers, all the traditional forms of media have declined. Now everything's digital. And I remember there was a program, this was like over a decade ago, it was called 531. And it was like a powerlifting strength program. It's pretty much forgotten about today, but at the time, that was the best selling ebook, fitness ebook of all time. And I knew the author of it. I knew the guy that had edited it. He was a mentor of mine. And that book, individually, he told me it sold over 100,000 copies at like 30 bucks a pop, right? So the author made $3 million. This was back in 2013. And then I worked for a couple of people in the fitness industry, John Meadows, and he was selling training programs. Just really, these are digital products, right? $400, $500 a pop. And I realized, okay, people buy stuff online. Like we buy stuff on Amazon, we also buy it from individual creators. And I love to write, same way Ed does. We both have that in common. And I saw Twitter as being a new medium comparable to, let's say, something like radio, or what television was, where, yeah, like people might not take it seriously within the first few years it comes out, but you have this forum where anyone can have a voice, anyone can contribute to the conversation, anyone can start a conversation, and you've got hundreds of millions of people using it. Like, why would you not take advantage of that if you have the skill set to be able to write and express yourself? What's the potential there? It's infinite. Now, there's a whole learning curve to figuring it out and like, learning how to tweet. And Ed's better at tweeting than I am. But yeah, at the same time, it's just like you play a volume game, you develop your voice, and what kind of brand, business, relationships can you create? It's up to you.
Interesting. It's almost like full circle to hear that because it sounds oddly familiar with how I started working on Money Twitter, but I wouldn't expect it to align like that.
Hmm.
Like you guys have seen my journey. In fact, like I think of you when I'm
Mhm.
so I've never had structure, plan, intention behind building a personal brand. For a long time, I didn't make money. I was quiet on it. I just loved learning. I liked writing. I've always loved writing. I don't know that I've actualized the writer desire yet. I've faltered a lot with that. But like Twitter to me was just a space that I would show up in like high school and like vent. And like I still, think out loud on Twitter a lot, right? But it was just this space where like I love thinking, put my think out loud, post things I learn or think and believe. And honestly, that hasn't really changed. It's only leveled up and ascended to like with my growth that it's very transparent. But I'm wondering what it looks like to you guys. And like, you know what I mean? Like you too have had an actual front row seat to such a long timeline that other people on Twitter who know me haven't. So that's a really unique angle in my opinion, like stepping into your shoes. Um, what do you think?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is I don't even remember why. I mean, I don't know why I was in Florida, but but when we met for dinner, and I was like, oh, okay, this is like a real person, off the books, and like a real normal motherfucker, because you know, you meet a lot of people, and that's not to say they're not normal. Um, I guess like I had never like any girls offline, and I'm like, okay, so and you don't ever want to give that impression because like that ain't you don't need
You
that
didn't.
shit at all in your life. Nah, but no, no, you're a cool normal person, and I think you were down there too. Yeah, down there too. AJ, it was 21 con. It's
Yeah.
right there. And when I was there, I drove over to Tampa for an interview. And yeah, when on the Concrete podcast, I guess that's where I don't know if they're still based out of Tampa, but that's where it was. And and seeing that just like and where I'm going with this is after you meet somebody online, then you become a little more invested in their work. Like I was telling you before, that only the homies now I get on podcasts because fuck life, man. It's crazy. Um, and that and you've never taken that and been like, oh, okay. Let me like motherfuckers hit you up. Let me get a tweet, man. Let me get a repost. Let me get a share. So it's very selfless. Like it's very selfless, and you're just there to create. And it's like, cool, man. Here are some people I know, and I think that's probably the best way to go about it. And I think you've done that well. I think your growth reflects that. I haven't looked at the numbers recently to like know the exact change and how fast you change. But what I do know is that like you come up in circles, screen name wise. So I'm like, okay, so you're moving and going where you want to go,
I'm just curious. So I'd be so like,
Yeah, I
what is she
mean, yeah,
doing here? What is your yeah?
well, I remember Trina, like Ed and I's feed, maybe now it's a little more nuanced, but especially back 5 or 6 years ago, it was very like it's masculine way of communication, subject matter. Like, but audience is mostly men for the most part, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, maybe it's like 80-20, male to female. So I always found it curious, especially when my account was smaller, when I'd have like a girl follow me. There was also like a real girl, right? Because you actually had your actual picture. It wasn't like it wasn't an anime, obviously. Like, obviously, there's lots of anonymous accounts right on Twitter. It's like, oh, this is a real girl that's following me. That's kind of odd. And you always retweet stuff. I'm like, okay, she clearly likes what we have to say. So I just say, oh, fall back. It's even today, like my social media feeds are predominantly just male subject matter. So myself, I'll follow females back just for like some refreshment of like, some of it's just girl subject matter, some of it's silly stuff. Or
Man,
it's like, okay, it's like guy talk, guy talk, guy talk, guy talk, guy talk. Here's a girl talking about whatever Taylor
Like
Swift
round out the
concert, for instance.
voices.
Yeah, it just rounds it out. Like, okay, that's enough with the the masculine dominance a little bit. You have to have some yin yang balance. But you'd always follow, and then I saw that you networked, it seemed pretty well on Twitter in regards to like following key people that are also major nodes. Yeah, and over the last few years, you took whatever, your communication skill set and you used it to, put yourself in the positions where you're coordinating other people's work or acting as a manager. Like you made a career of, being a very good, effective, speaker that way and being able to, connect with people. What has been interesting. Like I've seen people that, much of yourself, they started using Twitter because it was interesting. And now they actually managed to like make their own job, so to speak. Like you create a profession you can't really easily typify, but you do it and you get paid. Yeah, it's pretty fun, like, it's so awesome, like, good for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's are you still doing the work for whoever you were doing the work for or Twitter?
Yeah, so I do my own thing, and I also have a role with client extension,
Yeah, client
which,
extension, there you go.
That's
and, like,
okay.
we help agencies, like, scale. Big community, big online community.
Man,
Um, no, I mean, I was just curious,
that's
right?
like
Because
the best
I
thing. There's
oh, there's a lag. Sorry. What
Oh
was
no,
that?
it's all good.
You're good. No, I've always tried to be monogamous with the people that follow me. It's like I really got this from like, Cernovich so many years ago where it's like, if you find quality accounts, just you find cool people on Twitter, they're a real person, help them grow. And if you're good, for the most part, and this is backfired at times, but like, you're not gonna always be accurate with people, but yeah, if you're there's always people you help grow. Yeah, I know we could tell stories, but like, yeah, you help someone grow. You're like, oh, this person, you seem cool. Later on, there's some dank hood rat shit that comes out, or they
Man,
turn on you for some reason. I've had that happen a
it
few
is.
times. But for the most part, the majority of people I've helped out, they grow. They end up being a good account. Other people follow them. You're like, okay, I gave that person a boost. I put them over, to use the wrestling term.
Yeah,
Hopefully
or
they're
or we
grateful for it.
or you put them on to use like the street term, but like yeah, like I'm
We
just
really
I'm
are
laughing at
living
that.
lives
Mhm.
online. Like, you essentially show up to a different matrix, in my opinion, and, like, just do your thing online. Like, when I was trying to break the friction of, like, posting selfie videos, 'Cause I'm like, okay, let me like put more of myself out there because I had this craving just to be heard, like this super selfish, like I just need my thought. It did something different for me to spar with ideas and growth publicly, as reckless as that's gotten, than it does in my journals with my solitude and all these different things. Does that make sense at all? Like something about it, and
Yeah.
which is a liability it is. It's just something about it, right? Like if the few Substack things I've written and posted out, like it felt different than just doing a great brain dump in my journal. And and when I was trying to get through the friction of like, oh, I want to post more selfie videos now too, people telling me like, be on camera, use your voice, like get more of your like actual in real life energy across versus just like these isolated thoughts that kind of go all over the place. I'm like, okay. And that's what I told myself. I was like, you are literally just showing up to the same world through a different portal. Like that's really all we're doing. And I think that really informed the way that I
No, I
continue,
don't think that's selfish at all, though.
you know?
No, no, that's awesome. I don't think it's selfish at all to want to do that. Like, there's always this argument there where it's like it's self-deprecation. I'm gonna post, I'm gonna share, I'm gonna create videos, and people like to dismiss it. And like, I know it's selfish to want the attention. Like, that's not selfish. I don't think that's narcissistic. You know, the question I pose to people, if not you, then who else? Because everyone online is gonna end up following someone. It's gonna happen. That's just we're social beings. We gravitate towards people. If not you, then who else? It will be someone else that feels comfortable expressing themselves. Are their words, their voice worth more than yours? Online, it's hypothetically all equal. So if you want to put yourself in the public forum, which comes with a lot of pressure, it does. You know, like this is why people have meltdowns online, or the attention gets to them. Maybe they blow up, they get popular, the popularity gets to them. So if you can handle that with class and a clear mind, and there's healthy separation between your digital persona, your digital kind of matrix world, and your real life beyond that. Cool, then like do it, run with it. Because again, if you don't get famous, there'll be another person 10 years from now.
Yeah.
And everyone starts from zero. Everyone starts from zero. Everyone starts in the same spot. Nobody knows who you are. If you have anything worthwhile to say, it'll take about a year. You'll find out whether your words are worth anything. You'll get an answer.
I agree. I talk to a lot of people trying to break into the online space. And I can only speak from what I've seen other people do and what I've done, right? And it's like there's these two over generalizing paths. There's people show up to make a name for themselves and make money. And then people show up to like just express themselves in some way, which I think everybody in this room or like, you know, and then from there it's what do I have to offer is the natural thing. And it's like it's so obvious, right? Like there's already these elements in your lifestyle and your interests that you have. It's just about making them into tangible, visible things. Um, but people show up with like when they lead with the
Yeah.
others, I think they get stuck. 'Cause they're like, "Oh, what am I supposed to show? Just who you are, what you're into, what your skill is, what you're interested in." There's a lot of friction for a lot of people.
There, I guarantee you it's something with a kid. Now, there's always a question like, are you doing something? I realize this is for a lot of people. Am I doing this to be popular? Am I doing this to be helpful? If you have a skill set and you have a knowledge base that you've built, share it with people. Because why else did you build it? Yeah, of course, now if you're a young kid, if you're at the age of 19, 20, and you simply want to be popular because you think clout will do something for you in your life, you're probably going to implode. Yeah, but that happens all the time. That's a life lesson for you.
The clout
If
thing
you're a little
is
bit older though, or again, you're a little good.
oh, sorry. I'm sorry. There's definitely a lag. The clout thing is really something I'm curious what you guys think about because it's almost I feel like the online space is becoming a Hollywood culture, right? Like, you can just show up and have this image that you live through. And I've fallen into this trap sometimes. Like when I started getting attention, I was like, I do with this. I'm a little like, I'm super transparent, all my shit's out there, and then da da da. Like, and growth, I have had a fear of, which is so stupid, right? It's very arrogant. Like, oh my God, what if this blows up and I get even more attention? It's like, and then everybody who's showing up to be like, I want to blow up, I want attention, is like, what? How is that even a struggle? Like, what is your problem, like woman? It's like, I get it, but there's so much that comes with attention, right? And like, clout is really
Well,
important. Someone,
the the first thing I thought of when we said that. So I don't have any like I want all the attention, like all the smoke, all the platforms, I want it all. But I've also got like underlying foundation of skills, and when people find it, like, oh, this nigga's for real. Like this is not a just a regular dude. And so where I'm going with that is there's clout and there's substance, sizzle and steak, all that, right? When everything is together behind the scene, the the clout feels almost incidental. But when you try and lead with the clout and you don't really have anything to stand on, that's how you get this fucking deluge of guys who are, everybody's selling the same thing, or they moving to teaching, moving to teaching copywriting or helping people make money off their following. And I'm like, you understand the hard part is building the following. Like help me with that, but you can't. Well, uh, either you're an interesting person and you know how to communicate that. If you can do both, then you have explosive growth, or not. And it's not. No matter what, the internet has not changed that. I just saw a post about this artist, something like 13 million followers collectively. And when the album dropped, 2,000 copies got pushed. And I'm like, that's incredible. Like how bad could you really be at what you do? Because you would figure they're like, if you've been like singing and building that kind of audience on real skill, they should be eager to buy your album. Like, but the other way, when you just decide I'm gonna go do this and you're this famous person, it doesn't work. Some not up. I I think, I have no problem with clout. I really fucking despise unearned. Well, when people have it, um, and I don't have to despise it for too long because eventually the market sorts itself out. Like
Mm.
you don't last too long if you really ain't about shit. Young Jeezy's got this great lyric in the song "This One's for You," where he says, half of these niggas telling lies and they sound true. If you had it like that, I would have found you. Like that's how I feel about a lot of dudes that are floating around out there trying to build them a space. But like you were saying earlier, Alex, find a genuine dude who is a genuine account and is popping out good work. I love to see them dudes shine because they elevate me. Like there comes a point where if you find a real person and you help that person grow, they will help you grow. And I'll tell you a perfect example of this. I helped Dango when he first got on Twitter. Like his first few tweets we worked through and did all that. And he blew up. I think he's got at least twice as many, probably more, the followers than me now. And now he's helped me on LinkedIn. And that Dango's so legit because he's a real dude. Like that my interactions with him make me look better. Right. But like you were saying before, you helped the wrong motherfucker. You end up having to explain why you were doing like ain't that the worst? Remember when the hell is his name? Roman McClay, man. Remember that sad like so
Yeah.
now you got a bunch of people scrambling to explain why they put that dude on. Huh?
That's a red pill guy.
That's
Oh, he was. Do you want me to tell the story?
you tell the story, man.
So Roman McClay, where do I even start with this? So he got popular. He published a book called Sanction. Okay, the super thick
Oh,
book, which is like this techno dystopian novel about the future of humanity. All right, maybe you thought
Actually, not a bad writer either, but the
no,
plot
no,
was like weird.
heavy plot. Like
Shit,
it's like a good book. He's a great writer. He published that
You guys are
book in
frozen for me.
2000. I want to say 2019. So he posted the book in 2019. Started this kind of retweeting people in the what do you want to call the space we occupy? The sort of like somewhat right leaning free thinker, right wing bodybuilder, money Twitter. interesting people side of Twitter, started getting a following going. I met him in Colorado, and he had legitimately, this guy had been living in like a container home he built up in the mountains at like 15,000 feet. And he was a normal dude. You think, right?
Fucking Zuby put him on, like,
Zuby, he was on everybody's podcast. He was on everyone's podcast. He was very quiet, very respectful guy. It didn't come off as crazy at all. This didn't, right? You would never think. I mean, people like to believe that everyone likes to believe they could detect the level of evil. People like the most craziest people you ever meet are the ones who are the most normal in person. You know, it comes out so far out of left field. You're like, what? That guy did that? Anyway, so we met him. Lots of people talked to him. You know, I certainly met him. Yeah, I took a photo with him, right? First time he'd like been in public. Even he told me like in years, but literally living like a hermit. And then he kind of disappears off the scene, comes back to Twitter, starts getting into weird fights with people, you know, making threats. And then he snaps one day and he kills 5 people, like goes and shoots them because he'd had a past life as like a big time weed dealer. Like a big time weed dealer. And then he offs himself. So shoots these people from his past life, kills himself. And it's all over Twitter, right? And now the problem is he had taken photos and pictures and done interviews with goddamn everybody. So, and then now everyone's trying to backtrack and explain, like, yeah, I was not going to bow to the crowd. Zuby even had to come out with a statement like, hey, look, I've interviewed hundreds of people, right? And like, I didn't, how do you, 500 guests, how do you know one guy's going to go crazy? And then try to associate me with his actions. That's just underhanded shit. You know, like that, you can't clap back at people that way. But at the same time, it was like, shit, like I retweeted that guy so many times trying to help him sell his book. Right.
right.
And now what?
That's the danger of this shit, man. I actually posted that. You know, at the end of every or at the beginning of every year, I make this not necessarily like a cryptic tweet. It's not big or small. It's just like the most valuable lesson I learned this year. And fucking 2022. It was, you know, be careful who you implicate yourself with online. You associate because you're gonna have like you're either gonna have to answer for that shit, or you can just be like, oh, that's cool. Like for example, you want to hear the other end of that? I got people I ain't seen in years. Like I'm talking since high school, messaging me talking about, yo, I saw you mention the Atomic Habits, sending me the screenshot and shit. That's how that works on the other end. But you got to be careful. You know, now imagine this. Imagine if I fucking went Roman McClay. Now James has got to explain why that shit's in the book.
Damn. So there's no like,
yeah, that'd be unfortunate for a lot of people.
oh, sorry. God, the lag is so annoying. I don't mean to interrupt you. I reviewed a recording.
Say that again?
There's such a bad
That's
lag.
all.
I don't mean to interrupt you. And on my side, it's just like, whatever. I just watched the last recording of the last people I had on and keep talking. But so there's no like funny feeling, you know? I talk about intuition a lot. Very feminine of me. But like, there was no funny feeling with that one. Right?
Ask
Like it's
Ted Bundy about that shit.
okay.
No, I mean, here's the thing with intuition. Like, intuition's real. Like, I always tell people this. Intuition's real, and the way you develop it is by just making certain decisions, and if it works out, it calibrates your intuition. If it doesn't work out, it calibrates your intuition. But when it comes to character assessment of people, it's very easy to think you have good intuition when you're judging obvious behavior. You go out with a guy, let's say, Ed, you and I, you know, let's say younger days, you're going out, you're partying, you're drinking, a person's a sloppy drunk. All right, this guy clearly has a self-control issue. But that's obvious. You go out with a guy, he starts fights, self-control. You go out with the guy, he's bad with girls, awkward, has no game. Okay, like I can see that there's certain deficiencies here. But when you meet people under very controlled, calm circumstances, and you know they're calm, you interact with them, they seem normal, or especially even on Twitter. I can't see people face to face. I can have my bias for wanting to see people's face in their profile if I see someone on video, but I can't see them face to face. And it's extremely possible for somebody to be, maybe they're a high level psycho and they're a fantastic writer, but their actual life is completely dysfunctional, but they can present up front here. You have no way of really knowing that. You can only have your suspicions, right? And you know, once you get to above a certain level of relationships following, you know, Ed, you got 200,000 plus people. I think more than that. I got almost 200,000. I can't vet everyone. There's just no way. It's not reasonable. So you hope that
But
the
you know
people you
what
put over are
you know what
good.
it's you know what it's done to me, man? Um, especially with all that shit that happened with the 21 con too,
Mhm.
and all them motherfuckers. Look, it's really made me I paranoid almost. Paranoid's the wrong word. It's like highly discerning to the point where I look at you, I'm looking for reasons to not associate with you. I used to be looking for reasons to be cool with people.
Mhm.
Now I'm looking the first one I'm out because it's man, I'm almost 40, man. Like I got time for like either there's two types of drama. The kind of I don't like I cannot be associated with. Like, fortunately for me, I mean, even though I had retweeted Roman a few times, no one they didn't come for me like they came for a few people. Um, and then there's like little stupid nonsense where I'm like, how are you this age? And I'm acting like this. I don't either way. I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna just stay in my lane, do me, because I got here. Because that's the other thing that happens too. And we are probably in a more unique position to deal with this than most people. When you attain or once you reach a certain level, no one can really, or rather, the higher up you go, the fewer people who can give you something. Everything is you helping them. Like it's not an exchange anymore of audience. So once you reach that point, you're taking on a lot of risk. That's why the bigger shows are harder to get on, for example, because they're taking on a risk bringing you up. So they got to do more homework, more investigation, really comb you to make sure you ain't got some weird shit floating in the background that's going to come out and bite them in the ass. And that's what has happened. And it's cool because I'm busy, but like it makes it real easy to say no. Like real, it makes it so easy to say no. On top of that, having a family, I'm I'm like, I just want to chill with them. So if you're going like I was telling you before we all got on, it's like we do this podcast because I know you and I like you and I don't have to invest energy and like I know your character and you're cool. But I've turned down so many. I don't do anybody's first show. I tell them I don't care who you get. Oh, who you got? A guy messaged me the other day. He said we got Chris Voss and Mark Cuban confirmed uh for our first few guests, and we love to have you on. And I said respectfully, I'm happy you reached out, but I do not do anyone's first set of shows. If you're still interested, hit me up when your 50th episode. But other than that, I'm not doing it. Because I can't waste the time and energy, that kind of thing. You
Well, I
still
wouldn't want I would never
not
condone
associated.
I would never condone you navigating all this shit with fear, but I do think there's something to be said about, like, the natural cycle of, like, you have more to lose. Uh, you
Yeah, oh
you
yeah.
collected
Look,
all these horror stories and real life experiences of how sometimes you can't sometimes life's unpredictable. Sometimes there isn't certainty. Sometimes you know the sharpest
you
intuition
see,
for
so
what happens.
I was thinking about you yesterday. I retweeted this woman's experience. What I guess she went. One of her followers came out and decided to take her to dinner. I mean that's fucking
I
crazy.
saw that.
Yeah. And then and then dude loses his shit and texting like a bunch of apparently between text calls,
60 times,
emails,
something like that.
60 times a day. And some cats were like, she made this up. Other cats are like, I didn't seen enough shit to know. That's probably true. I mean, but
Mhm.
guys are messed up. But like the one wrong with that is like, you know, like I'll let I'll tell you my experience with that. Nothing like that, cause I remember you posted that thing online where that dude was making the Asian jokes and shit in the dream.
Well, yeah.
Crazy. I remember you responding. I remember you responding.
That
I
was
was like,
that was
you're not
hysterical,
even
man.
Chinese. I'm like, it's funny, but it's weird. But like when I respond to people on IG, cause I try to respond to everybody that messages me. I'm not so big yet that I can't do that. At least I don't get that type of inbound. But every now and then, dudes will just keep sending me like real after real after real, and I get it. Like it's something I might find interesting. And they don't really know each other to be sending reels. Like, what am I supposed to do? Respond every time? Like, I ain't got shit to do? And then get stuck in this weird place because it's not aggressive or hostile behavior. It's just really weird. Like I'm not responding. Like, I want 20 reels in a row. And then finally, and then I got to think, like, that is kind of funny. Should I do the ha ha me? Or, because if I say ha ha back, he's going dumb. He can send more. It's just a weird. It's
For the audience, they're referring to this very vulgar DM that I screenshotted and aired out to the whole world of Twitter because why was I fed up? What was going on? I was fed up for some reason.
I
Oh, it's crazy.
I remember that DM Trina because I was so like I try, yeah, I mean, it wasn't even it was racist. I'm like, this is so disgusting, but it was you can't say it wasn't funny. But I try to imagine like what I try to like you try to understand a little bit. I'm like, how's a guy online right now? Like, there's some motherfucker sitting at his laptop, and maybe he seriously believes like this is gonna be the game tweet, right? It's gonna like unlock Asian pussy of like, I want to impregnate you with my white shoulder in and your, yellow punani. I'm like, I read this. I'm like, did you really expect this to work? Like, did you really like really though? Like, I almost want to talk to you. I'm like, did you honestly believe that like you had discovered the code? Like, you're gonna send this, and she's gonna send some message back like, oh my god, this is the sexiest, hottest shit I've ever read. Like, did you really think that? I don't know, but it was regardless. It was entertaining.
But you
And
gotta be
remember, I'm not a
careful. You
Twitter
gotta be
account that
careful.
like,
I know I would never want to be a woman.
oh my God. And I'm not a Twitter account that posts
I
like bikini pictures and shit like that, right? So imagine, so I almost wonder,
Right.
like,
You're like,
No,
that's
no.
not your thing.
but for them, is it like,
I would
more?
never want to be an attractive woman online.
Yeah, right. Okay. Hesitancy legitimized. I can't imagine what it's like for girls who like post like that, right? Like, we used to talk on the online Twitter space.
Well, I mean, that's where the running joke comes from.
What?
No, I mean, any attractive girl that posts online, we're actually posting, let's say, like sexy shit, chronically, constantly. Every girl's the same story. Just their whole inbox, they open it up. Dick, 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 dick. That's all. That's 90% of their inbound.
Ugh.
Right, which is man, I wouldn't even. Yeah. Hey, but I'm not gonna lie though, man. Like, I'm real happy that I entered this world at a very stable place in my life. Like, I wasn't drinking no more. I'm with my girl, right? Because, man, because I wouldn't say no shit like that. Because I'd be trying, I guess, you know. Uh, but
You do it. Okay,
but
so
what
all this
the
shit is
world I
happening
had.
in people's formative years. Now you got 18-year-olds stepping onto the scene, like, haven't even figured out who they are yet and are doing all these things, making money, thinking out loud, right? What, and I can relate. Like, but like, it's, I feel like all of this shit has totally changed how we can expect people to develop, obviously in not optimistic ways. And some of them I hope are optimistic, but like, I really worry about it. It's like I even remember watching my brother, who's a Zoomer, his all of his chick friends, I looked at them in this like picture of them all getting together for homecoming and prom. And I remember thinking to myself, like, these girls are born onto a stage, right? Like there's no, when I was growing up, there was like, it wasn't, I went through an awkward phase and, like a
Everybody
blooming
does.
phase. And now I feel like that has gone down, that rite of passage, right? Like you go through some sort of formative experience. Now it's like, you know how to present before you know how to actualize what used to be a prerequisite for like presenting those things. It's for men, it's for women. I mean, all of the thirst traps and stuff that we just touched on, like that has to mess with men's development, right? Like it's unreasonable to ask people to not be uh acting on or responding to certain catalysts or all the emotions and hormones and desires and all these different things that boil up as you're like actualizing and growing into the person you're going to be. but it's also really, really dangerous to give them all of this, all of these catalysts and all of these opportunities to spar with their demons publicly. It's wild.
I think if with Zoomers, like there is a technology is always going to affect people, like on a very broad level. Like you can't stop the effects of technology. It's going to be incorporated into the human collective psyche somehow, some way. But I think with Zoomers, what I have seen is that, like, yes, there's a lot of kids where they just associate popularity with success because how could you not? Right? They've seen that, they've
Right.
seen it work in real time. At the same time, everybody is much more hyper conscientious of their behavior because everything could be filmed at any given time. And it honestly reminds me almost of like, it reminds me of like almost like Asian society, like Asia specifically, like China, Vietnam, Thailand, where you have these countries where there's much harsher expectations into how you're supposed to interact and behave in public. And it is, people can disagree and maybe I'm wrong, but like I sort of slowly see that happen in the United States. It's going to take a while to shake out, but everybody, because they know they could be filmed and if they behave out of pocket, they could be embarrassed. They are acting a little bit better. Maybe not say everybody is,
That's
but they're
hard.
they're acting in such a way that they don't want to violate through the social norms. Yeah,
That's a
like they're
really
not rebellious that way.
right. You know what's funny about that? Dr. John Haidt, he's written a bunch of great books, The Coddling of the American Mind,
Yes.
that and one of the stats he points out that I think we've shared in different iterations as well is how like young people are not taking risk anymore.
Hmm.
The rate like now the level of alcoholism has actually gone up, but the rate of overall drinkers has gone down in young people.
Oh, I didn't know.
And the rate of like sex, yeah, the rate of sex, and also like they're not getting their driver's licenses.
Yeah.
Ignore that driver's license thing for a while because I don't have a feeling about it either way. This is an idea. It's not completely a bad thing. These behavior changes. Now, I do think that has to be tempered and balanced with some. It's one thing if you're not banging because you're being respectful. It's a totally different thing if you're not even trying and you sit in the crib with porn and anime. But it's but either way, that's why you can't really judge outcomes. You got to look at how we're getting there. But you are exactly right about that. The mere fact that people know their behavior is going to be uh observed
Hmm.
will probably like because I think about this all the time. One of the most powerful things I did is I started talking about my sobriety after I had more than just like, oh, I woke up and I'm hungover because everyone's sober the next day, right? I'm never drinking again. Uh, but after you get like a month or two, and I start talking about it, making mentality because now people are watching. That is an expectation. I don't want to be viewed as a quitter or a hypocrite. So that really helps me continue on the change that I know I need to make. So that is the other side of it. I think I've never thought of it like that before.
I mean, everything is
Well, I
positive
mean,
and
like I
negative.
said, it's not to say that everyone in America is behaving differently, but no, you're right. It's just like there's positive, like you said, there's negatives. So I don't know what the next 20, 30 years will look like. People love long-term predictions. I don't know. I know
Can't make them,
so,
man.
so long as technology is a force in human lives, which it always has been, always will be, you can expect technology to change behavior. Maybe this next generation, it seems like the trend is it's slowly becoming more conservative, just in terms of it's everything. How you act, how you behave, the way you conduct yourself. Zoomers are also very private. They've gotten way more private.
Yeah, that's
Like,
weird to me.
there was this era, I think, with millennials, maybe young Gen X, like 10 years ago, where it's just sort of like oversharing everything. I don't see really that same behavior with like young people because they know that everything will be used against them. Like everything you ever post can and will be used against you. So, okay, let me just not post things. I have like younger cousins, they're like, at age 25, and like all their accounts are private, or they have multiple accounts. They're like only for close friends. And then they have like a public account that's only for certain photos. And then, maybe they have like another backup account that's anonymous. Like they don't do the stuff that, maybe Ed and I did, where we try to sort of just be open because they've seen that just blow up on people. So, okay, let me categorize this and isolate it. And this I won't share, this I will. Like they have to think about it more because they watch what the consequences were of not thinking about it. Um,
Yeah, that's
yes.
true, man. You can't really live through the era of like war hasn't affected the next generation. You couldn't live through this cancellation era and come out more open. You couldn't.
No.
But that's why I think
People
it's a
are losing actual jobs for
that's why I think it's a liability, right? Because you're talking about this, what I perceive as almost a sense of censorship that people are walking around with, right? Like they're like you're even if you're with like your life partner and they're like in the room. Oh, sorry if that word bugs anyone. But like when you walk around, you're super comfortable with each other, you know everything about each other. You're still a different animal when you are uncensored in solitude. Now, when you are expressing, and there's a whole spectrum of self-expression from completely uncensored in solitude, who you are when no one's looking, to who you are at your top, best presentation, positioning, all the things. Like, if the way you develop and harmonize both those ends doesn't even get a chance to be open and explore and fumble, like, if the entire process is informed by the appearance thing, and the whole reason people don't show more is because of all these liabilities, I think the other end also gets stunted. No? Like, you actually never formed. It's almost like Avatar to me.
Oh, you have a private world and you have a personal world, and like I would, if I was to make like an allegory or comparison, like compare it. I'll just use Asia again. Compare it to Asia. If you look at really any Asian society, let's say the Japanese, you have your personal life, which is like sort of how you really express yourself, which is personal, and then you have the way the world sees you, and that's face. And everyone has a sort of implicit understanding that you need to save face, you need to present face, like you need to fulfill certain expectations. And how you feel, again, personally, privately, might be different. What goes beyond what is said behind closed doors might be different. But American society, I think, is developing the same way. I think long term, you're going to have face. You have the digital world. You have this matrix we live in. You have your truly personal life, which is where your true heart is. Maybe you merge the two. Maybe you take a little bit from one into the next personal life, or maybe you don't. But that's the way it develops. And those society, like it's a function. It functions. It's just a different way of living. The Americana dream of free, open expression all the time. I'd love to say it's going to last forever. And America, by comparison, is incredibly more free than almost everywhere else on earth. You can say shit that you can say here that you can't say anywhere else. I can criticize the government over and over again right now. So long as I don't call specifically for violence, nothing bad's going to happen in it. You can't say that in most countries. But again, the world's changing. Is faith going to become a concept in America? Maybe it will.
yeah, we're very young compared to the rest of the world. And so one of the things that you get with age, you just go through a lot more shit. I'll never forget the first time I was in Paris. They got a sewer museum, which is wow. You go take a tour of the sewers,
Oh,
and I'm walking through these sewers, looking at some of the exhibits and what they're talking about, and I was like, man, the fucking place where my shit goes is like 3 times older than my entire country. That's crazy to me. And that means that we haven't gone through a lot of stuff. So like Americans comparatively like are this value of expression. That's a very, very American thing. Like it's very like selfish. A lot of people think we're selfish. Like the need to individual desires and needs above the group. Well, you can do that when you're America. When you got all the food and all the land and all the army, you can do whatever you want. Right? Because here's when nothing ever in the history has existed like the United States. We just had the technology to make it possible. Anybody who argues that doesn't understand like how big of a difference it makes when you drop a nuclear weapon on somebody and the rest of the world goes, gosh, right? Or when you decide I'm the hire Nazi, I'm gonna tell you I hired them. And what are you gonna do about it? Your own people are like, you really shouldn't have me. I'm like, it's cool because they helped us build NASA. Like, and that makes such a difference in how we perceive what is right. I don't think, like this idea of expression. It's just not prized the same way it is here. Well, we,
Yeah.
I mean, look, the first fucking amendment, say whatever you want, right? But now, in case shit pop off, that's what the second one is there. But like that's where it comes from. That's how important that is to us, and that's a very new concept.
Yeah, I mean, I've told friends, I've told relatives this. One of the things that you told my wife this. One thing that's very unique about the United States. Everyone here, I mean, I would say this is a nation of immigrants. I hate that gay diversity fucking bullshit. But like, the United States is a nation of people that formatively they decided where they were living, they didn't like it, and they said, "Fuck this, I'm moving." Like that's everyone. That's everybody that came. It's like, "Fuck this, I'm moving." Why are you going there? Because I want to make money, and also, for a lot of them, originally the founders, I'd like to be able to say what I want, and fuck you if you say no. So we have freedom of expression. We also have the right to defend yourself. Again, you like Ed said, you go to most places, that's not the situation. Most countries don't prioritize fuck you, I'll say what I want. It's more so fuck you, follow along and do what everyone else is doing. It's very different. Yeah, that's why people like being here. That's why, and also the U.S. has incredible geography, incredible natural resources, and
We have
we're
all the
rich for a reason. We got
all the
everything.
water,
Well, that's pretty at odds
and
with what you guys just said,
there's
right? Like this being the hub of the world, and now everybody deciding to lean more towards the censorship that the other countries experience. Like in my opinion, we should.
that's the value or not value. Um, that's when it happens here, the way we're describing it, it's a market force. I think that's a good way to describe it. It's like everyone adjusting to the conditions as opposed to those conditions being uh, implemented top down or being written into a constitution or something like that. This is the result of something a lot more powerful, social pressure. And so us moving to, which is why it's not going to look, like I have no idea how it's going to look, but the mere fact that it is enforced by the collective response of your neighbor, as opposed to fear of getting popped by the government, that's a very good, just going to look different. How it's going to look is,
But it doesn't sit right with me when you
you know,
express that
anyone,
for
yes.
a lot of your decisions, Ed. Like a voice like yours, that I think, like both of you, I think your voices should be we like they're the kind of voices that in like the spiritual side of me is like we got to protect those voices and we got to make sure they stay amplified, and the spiritual part of me thinks that
Well,
we're all on a way to this like big death and rebirth, and the exact outcome they want is for voices like yours to be fearful and for that to intercept a lot of reasons your voice and action should reverberate throughout the world. Like, yeah, we're collecting all these reasons to be risk averse, but I also think that this ironically sounds like a really ideal outcome for them to usher everyone towards, if we're in talk like evil outcomes. Um, yeah,
Well,
I know you.
the
I know
thing
this.
with like
Right, like
grandiose plots, like I don't disagree with the idea. Hmm.
no, so no, so I was just laughing.
The thing with grand plots, you're good. You're good. You're coming in clear, but like I don't disagree. Like, is there a movement force, market force in place where censorship is becoming heavier? Like, yeah, 100%. Why is that? Because on a very basic level, people that have power want to keep power, and if your criticisms of them, if your deconstruction of them, potentially removes them from power, that's a problem. Um, Grand conspiracy theory on like a world global scale, like yeah, there's always forces at work that are far bigger than yourself. But again, fundamentally, what do people want? People want power. They want influence. They want status. They just want wealth and whatever else comes with it. Um, and that's always going to be shifting and changing, like it will. So, the United States, like, not even the United States, but the world, like, do I see the world becoming more sensorial over the next 50 years? Probably not. It's going to shake out like it always shakes out, is that some governments will fall, some will rise, some people will rise to power, some will be removed. If you were to go back in time, at the peak of, let's say, like, French Revolution, before everyone got their heads cut off, did anyone know that was going to happen? No, I mean, when you have a monarchy, and then 10 years later, everybody's dead. And then 10 years later, you have a monarchy again. And then a few years later, you got Napoleon. And another few years later, you have a monarchy again. And then more years later, now you have a democratic government. And then that one gets overthrown. Now there's student uprisings. I'm like, you can try to make these predictions like, oh my God, we're all going to be, silenced for the rest of our lives forever and ever. It never works out that way.
Mm.
it doesn't. Yeah, human beings are very volatile on the individual level all the way to a societal level. There's always going to be some impending chaos that breaks everything that somebody tried to implement. Now you kind of have to start over, maybe from scratch, maybe from the halfway point. Uh, yeah, we just happen to be living through what I would consider chaotic times where we don't get to enjoy, let's say the relative peace we had over the last 50, 60, 80 years. You gotta get used to the wildness of it. I don't know how else to say it.
The
I mean, that's
jungle, baby. No, you're
when
right.
the way you guys spar with uncertainty, though, is a huge problem for most, right? So, like, that's why I think your voices are important. Like, it helped, right? Like, it's almost navigating, helping everyone fight. If you want to say like the war on attention, or like spiritual war, or whatever, censorship, or whatever is happening. I think the biggest, I think people are going to crave meaning once we exhaust this like wit of status and power and stuff like that. Like, I think a lot's going to change, and I think the only solution for people is to deal with uncertainty, right? Like, we're living, you both have a very like already accepted that these are unprecedented times and we don't know what it's going to exactly what it's going to look like, but you can still examine it all day every day, provide commentary on it, and you're like, and you're still chilling, you're still ascending like in your lives. And that's, I mean, that's why I think voices are important, with certain voices, right? I think I think that's really how you fight it, like on the deepest level.
Certain voices, the internet, best and worst part about the internet is that everyone's got a voice.
Yeah.
What do you, this is always a question I return to. It's just like, what do you have control over? Like, yeah, it's very easy to blackpill yourself on how you think the world's going to shake out. Okay. What do you have control over? Do you have control over your mind? Do you have control over your actions? Is there anything actually prohibiting anybody from creating a universe for themselves that's, rich and vibrant and filled with life and relationships? No. Yeah. At the same time that people catastrophize, you also must acknowledge that we have, at this point in history, I consider like the individual has the most amount of control they've ever had of their ability to elevate their life, ascend, change their economic status, change where they live. Like, you can, especially you live in a first world country, you live in America, you can hypothetically make infinite amount of money, live anywhere. Like, there's no constraints at all. There's really not. There's your personal constraints. Are you smart enough? Do you have the motivation? Of course. But everyone has the same potential. You can go from 0 to 1,000 if you want to, if you're ambitious enough. Nothing is stopping you. Like, really, nothing is truly stopping you. There's solutions now for everything. It's been impressive if even with how much Ed's grown his business, life business. Yeah, I've seen people in other countries, like Jose Rosado, my buddy. The dude's making 6 figures a year living in the Dominican Republic. He's in the 1% of his income for his country. How do you do that? He did that on Twitter, right? Just making headers for people originally. Like, there's no barriers to anything. So to complain about like, oh my God, the government's gonna censor us, like, okay, like how is, not to say it's not a problem, but how is that specifically impacting you and keeping you from making money or or for myself, my business, is that stopping you from going to the fucking gym? Like, no,
Jim.
like your reasons for your
I like that.
misfortune, your reasons for your misfortune in life and why you're not as successful as you could be. It's not because of the government. Again, not to say that doesn't matter. Your reasons for you not being successful in life are yourself. You are the problem. So save yourself first, make your own universe a prosperous one. And then if you have the power and the money and the resources, you know what? You can start affecting things beyond your sphere, but not before that. Start with you. Hi, son.
Let me see.
Okay.
Hi. Oh my God, his hair got so long.
He's been screaming for like an hour. Hi, son.
So cute. What's up? Oh, so great. And you both had babies the same year too. It's like so crazy, right? Around the same year. No, it's interesting what you just said, Alex. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah. Sorry. It's lagging on my end, not yours. The personal training and like being in the
Mhm.
gym type conversations that I imagine is where I mean, I've talked to you, like you're very good with people. Like, part of that social fluency, obviously got reinforced with training people and you having these conversations, I imagine, that come up when you're like working out. But it's funny because the anecdote you just said, where it's like, okay, what are you actually scared of? that is a common point that I reach in all my conversations when I help people and work with people, right? And it's so much of the self-development is actually like encountering this like ghost of a belief or fear or something that you think is going to happen that isn't real, and actually pulling it to the surface and realizing like everything's going to be okay no matter what. And it's so cliche, but like that really is what frees people. And I think it's interesting because I don't see like in my experience, unless there's what physical, and I remember your banner used to say mentality equals physicality. Like I see that every week. Like unless there's some sort of actual physical momentum going on with them, like, oh, hey, did you take a walk? Did you go to the gym this week? Did you have that conversation in real life? Like if you're just sparring with the mental part of it and there's not actual movement with your body and your life, like happening in coordination with this inner work, all these problems you think you have, like it doesn't take off. So it's interesting. And like obviously, Ed, you've done the boxing thing is one of the experiences that you use to like have a voice and amplify it and serve people. The chess thing strategy, my biggest like I would love to learn like chess or poker or something because I'm just not good at thinking about people's strategies or mine. Like those involve movement at a very basic level. And everybody is so I think has this experience online every day with that they are moving around, but they're not. It's like all these like perpetual like loops and endless rabbit holes to go through with their mind. They don't move. They're actually rendered like completely unalive while they're living. It's crazy. Yeah.
The body is the path to personal power. No, I mean, I've told people that for years. It's a very simple, it's not even an analogy. It's the way the world works. It's the will of, it's a demonstration of will. Like, okay, if I put you in a scenario where I need you to move, to resist, and you need to produce force, that's your mind working and that's your physical self. And oh, you actually made the weight move. You did the reps, you did the push-ups. It's the most basic relationship you can have with reality. You know, realizing that your actions have cause and effect. Uh, Digital world, like your actions can have cause and effect, but you also have to recognize that, speaking, talking, and all these things, uh, it you can say much, you can speak much, but say little. So yeah, if your life is lived solely online, like it's a hard thing to parse out and navigate, because then you can lose your perspective on what's really making a difference in moving the needle. Ed and I just both happen to come from physical backgrounds uniquely, where myself having been a trainer and then Ed having been a pro athlete, we understand that relationship very intimately.
And it probably has, I think there is likely, this relationship likely has a lot of bearing on our communication and our outlook. Like, I wrote a poem a while ago, about I don't even remember what it was, but the idea was that if you've been dealing
You'll leave
with
this right now.
uncertainty forever, when things become uncertain, it's not a big deal. It's
Man.
like when COVID happened, everybody was fucking scrambling, and I'm like, "Well, this is just a new uncertain event," and then just pivot. I'm pretty sure I made the most money I had in my life that year.
Best year
Becau
ever.
like, yeah, because you're set up to be, um, not set up to rely on one thing or set up to be we value, here are these values, and we value kind of freedom, and with that as a proxy value adaptability. Uh, So I think definitely from sports, there is that, oh, okay, what can I do? I never feel everything in the world. No, I just gotta get out there and do some shit.
Mm.
Someone, and I think that's something that's uh, I don't know what the hell it's so. What is it? Z or is Gen Z somewhere or they're one after the
Generation Alpha.
oh yeah,
Oh,
man.
those are like his age. He's like technically he's like a Generation Alpha. So
Oh,
anyone born
cool.
after like 2020, I think it is. Yeah.
All I
Well, Oliver.
great. Uh, they they certainly remind you that the time is going to zip on by.
Yeah, did the way you look at, like, the internet world change at all when you became a dad? That's the most cliche question, but I really is a genuine curiosity. Like, it's so funny to think of you it
I'm not, well, I can't speak for Alex, but I'll tell you what happened for me. Well, for starters, I don't. No one knows when I travel anymore. I don't. It's just not. I don't care about checking into the airport. Like all of us are going, baby. But nah, I don't at all. And now I'm like, I think I went down a rabbit hole, and now I know like bigger problem is these fucking gaming rooms. So now I got to think about how to keep him from even being interested in this digital world as a form of recreation because that's half the battle. If he would rather go to the gym or pick up a ball, than play Fortnite or some shit, like okay, I'll consider that a success. And that, but here's the thing about it, that like that's one of those actions. If you can get that behavior change right, you remove a lot of entryway for a lot of weird motherfuckers. Like because I watched Patrick Beck Davis had this guy, former CIA operative, who now heads up this. It's effectively a nonprofit that deals with human trafficking, children, and protecting children from this. And he was telling a story about how all it took was like under an hour for this weirdo to go into this video game chat room and get this kid to come try and meet him. Now, fortunately, like we have the technology and some very motivating because you got two limitations: technology and motivation. Fortunately, like I think it's a highly motivated group of people who want to protect children, not just their parents. So they were able to find them in like 4 hours. But now, I mean, things that I think people worry about the wrong shit is general kind of like I'm not worried if he bumps his head. Whatever. He won't bump your head a lot. Like he tried to walk yesterday and he fell and his lip was bleeding. I'm like,
Well,
it's
that's
all
not
right, man. He
saying it's
probably gonna bite it again at some point. Right. But now I'm thinking about the internet, how I will cultivate a relationship with the internet and all the parental controls I gotta deal with. And really just keep the screen time away, which means I gotta model less screen time. It's
Mhm.
this whole world of like your brain changes because now you're a role model for somebody.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Like, it makes you reconsider your. I've always talked about like you can't go to war with your environment, and you realize when you have kids, like the environment's the biggest influence in regards to what shapes behavior. It's kind of, yeah, I've always been a very environmentally conscientious person, so it's been unusual to me to see people, a lot of parents, we realize they don't actually pay attention to the environment their kids are in, both in school, which creates its own issues, like where are they being taught, and also online. It's like, oh, where are they? Where are they online? Digital universe is huge, right? Infinite. Yeah, I remember I had a parent, it was like 2 years ago. I remember being in the car, and she had like a 13-year-old son, and he was like, he wasn't mixed race per se, but yeah, he looked mixed basically. No, you know what I mean? Like his dad was like a Middle Eastern Jew, so he looked kind of swarthy.
He was sort of Rican.
Yeah. So anyway, so she's like, he's online, and so he's online, he's playing games, right? And for all the censorship controls that happen now online in chat rooms and gamers, all the stuff, kids are still going to say the most out of pocket shit imaginable. So somehow he's playing like, I don't know, COD, some sort of shooting game, whatever. And he somehow like says in the conversation that he's Jewish, right? And then he just starts getting lit up with like, as you're like, you're shooting each other, right? Whatever the fuck you're playing. It's like, so you have all these guys commenting like, motherfucking take you out, like you kike nigger faggot, piece of shit. And he's like 13, right? He's like, no, what the fuck? He has no reference point for any of this.
Right.
So, and then he's like, mom, like, what are these guys saying to me? So she kind of like is reading the chat, right? And it's like, and it's just like the same message over and over. Some version of a Jew Jew, nigger, faggot, kike, dick sucker, homo, piece of shit. Like, I'm gonna snipe
All the
you.
things.
I'm in your base, killing your dudes. And she like, basically tears the Xbox out of like the fucking TV. She's like, oh, I'm never letting you play this again, right? But she's telling us this in the car. She's like, why do kids act this way? I'm like, this has kind of always happened, probably more or
Right.
less.
We just
But
never had.
but you've never been privy to it. It's also an online environment where like whatever you would say in person, you're gonna say 10x online because there's no actual ramifications, right? You're not gonna get punched in the mouth for the shit. So you're just gonna go off with the most extreme, expression possible. But that's like Gen Z, Generation Alpha, right? They're gonna have to deal with these really weird digital environments where, like, and as a parent, you're gonna have to control that. The one thing I'm thankful for with us, it's like we're both very conscious people. And like he sees us using the laptop and TV, obviously, right? You can't avoid it. But like we've set up like we don't have television. The screen time that we have, it's like Miss Rachel on YouTube. It's like 30 minutes maximum. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know exactly what I'm talking about, Ed. Jesus Christ! And then also like
Oh man, whenever he's crying, just
yep.
put on some of this.
Well, this is the other shit. Where like as a parent, like I never give my child a screen until they're
No.
12 years old. But you're gonna have Trina, if you're at kids, you're gonna have moments in time where it's like, I'm trying to do something. I'm on the toilet, like just whatever. It's like we need him occupied where he can't like be up in our shit. Like it's just gonna fucking happen. And you know what? The ability to turn on like some silly video where it's like, "Hi kids, do you like ducks? How do you spell duck?"
Duck.
Like whatever. It's
Can
like
you say dog?
yeah. Can you say fish? It's like that's gonna hold their attention. And you know what? At the same time, they're gonna grow up in a world where they're gonna be interacting with screens 24/7. So the idea that you can detechnologify your kids and like live in this, I don't know, this what's the term I'm looking for? Like Luddite kind of world with no
Yeah, these
technology.
motherfuckers that are
It's not
talking about off the grid shit.
Yeah,
But
it's not
like,
gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. At the same time, we go outside with them literally like 4 hours a day, just outside,
Yeah.
right? It's just
So,
strike.
which is already though the balance,
whatever
because you
he's
guys are in
talking
a
what to stay away from. And one of them is going to be accepting that they are going to need to navigate some of this realistically, right? Because like the people shaming, the parent. I can imagine from my hospitality days, like all the parents with the kids just keeping them on their phone, never learning table manners or whatever, just as a cop out for parenting. Like if you see that and you're like, I'm never giving my kid a screen until they're 12. Good intention, but realistically, it's probably going to be something they interact with, is what it sounds like you're saying. And like, what
They're
not
gonna
like,
see a screen at some point.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, remember television, like latchkey kids, like 1980s? It was like, oh, that was like the latchkey generation. And so you had millions of kids coming home, parents are both at work, and they're just watching TV for like 5, 6 hours. That was a big deal when I was growing up. I'd probably say it's like, okay, don't watch too much television. Yeah. Now nobody really watches television. It's don't be on your iPad too much. Yeah, and then at the
there'll
same
always
time,
be something, but
there's always something. Always. It used to be fucking rock and roll in the 1950s. This music's corrupting you kids. There was the radio. I mean, like even Fahrenheit 451, that book that people always bring up about censorship, it wasn't about burning books. It was about society that was captured by television,
Yeah.
where nobody wanted to read. Now, I would argue kids read this younger
No,
generation.
they read a lot.
They
more.
read like crazy through the phone. They're always reading and watching shit, and their productivity, content skills are really incredible. Honestly, like I would
The
argue,
world-
it's made people smarter in certain ways.
the world we live in is like you said, you can't have your kid like imagine what a disadvantage you would give your child if you kept him from technology for the first 10 years of his life. Like like you may as well chop his fingers off and punch him a few times. Like, cause he can't like that's about as effective. Not gonna learn, obviously. But my point is yeah, you can't avoid that stuff. But what you can do, you guys are in the exact same situation as we are wise. Yeah, we're outside every day for nap time. But well, one of the not for nap time, one of the intervals in between nap time, we gotta find something to do. Uh yeah, we need to go to farmers market, we take lots of walks. One of the best parts about living in Western Pennsylvania, the sheer abundance of trails and forests. I take him with me to get coffee all the time, so he's always exposed and out. Like there's so much you do. So like I was saying, the goal isn't to make him not deal with screens. The goal is so that he prefers other things, but I can't manipulate the environment. All I can do is manipulate uh my influence on him. Well, what can I show him? If he sees me working out constantly and be present in the world and taking and he grows up with a family, it takes walks and hikes. Okay, it's probably gonna go a lot farther than if we were always away. It was daycare, screen, relax after work, drink beer or something, and lather and repeat. So hopefully, fingers crossed, but who knows, because they come out with their own personality.
Everybody,
It's
you're like you're treating like you're the role model, and all it does is make you more conscious of your behavior. Come here.
oh,
Kids see
yeah,
others
it's
always
been
trying to
a
copy you, so it's like I didn't work. I didn't worry about that when I had a kid. Like, oh god, like I'm gonna think about what I do. I'm like, I live a very clean, disciplined
Yeah.
lifestyle, so this has not been challenging that way. But yeah, I could see people if you have kids and you really have never done any sort of reductive self analysis in your behaviors,
Oh
it,
man,
it might
you're gonna learn
surprise you.
today.
Yeah, you're gonna learn. It will surprise you because it's like it's cliche to say, but it's true. Like they watch you all the time. They're gonna do the exact same things you do. They're gonna eat the same things. They're gonna want to
the
copy your
older I
behaviors
get,
It's
the
it's
for good or bad.
amazing.
the older I get, the more silly little templates of things, beliefs, views, behavior that they'll like come up and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there was my mom." Like, type things. It's so
Mhm.
crazy. Not even just
I
example wise, but like
I it's one of the
Thank you.
saddest things I've had to deal with is watching how my sister has absorbed and now I absorbed a lot of bad traits too. The difference and some outside influences, a shit ton of self-awareness and a lot of work, like a lot of conscious work to deal with things. While my sister, not only did my sister not do that, but she been really close to my mom. I'm not. I know my mom passed in what December 2021, and I
Hmm.
you're sad because someone is dying, but it's not like I'm losing a companion. My sister, and I'd always fought with my mom. I said, "You gotta, she let her live with her until she was like 25 or whatever, and worse stuff." I'm like, you gotta help her because, or not, by help her, you gotta cut her off, go out and push her, because one day you're not gonna be here, and she's gonna be you, and you're fucked up. Like I mean, I several times I tried to get this through. I mean, I didn't quite probably did a
yo, you're fucked
uh,
up.
well, yeah, I mean, my mom yelled at me because she didn't like that I wrote about my childhood the way I wrote about it in my newsletter, and I'm like, "Yo, well, am I lying? If I'm lying, I will correct. If you just don't like it because it reminds you of your fuckery, that's a different story." Um,
Oh, I struggle
but
with
now
that.
my sister, my mom's been dead for 10 years now. My sister is I've had to loan my sister money, twice to keep her from getting evicted, and I'm like, that's a basic skills, and my sister's 35.
Hmm.
Like, but those basic skills that, she picked up watching how my mom dealt, or rather did not deal with emotion in our life. Your kids are gonna copy. And then one of the things that a lot of people don't know unless, I tell them, I talk to 'em, I don't we don't have help. Like, there's no like, I'm not even though all my family lives here, I on either side, they for different reasons, but the same reason, uh, that shit ends interacting with me. It's not going to pass on my kid. We're going to raise a different human and hopefully influence the next few generations and shit. Right. But that's how that is. And it all comes from people just copying, copying, copying. And I like this show because I'm writing this book. I've had to like pull from my many stories of my life. And I realized, I probably should have got therapy or something. But like it's writing is the therapy and the hard work. That's all the work. But you realize how much it makes a difference. I'll just tell you a story before I end it. To how much of a difference, like how powerful your mom is. I got a cousin. He went to jail in 1990. Went to jail for 1990 because this motherfucker, would called a taxi. No, he didn't have the money. Got in shot, stripped around. Taxi driver was like, "Yo, brother, I need the money." Again, to an argument. His response was to shoot him in the head and rob him. So he was 17 at the time. They tried to get him tried as this is actually keep the story. He was 17. So he got tried as an adult, got sent to out of state, life, life in prison without the possibility of parole, and she should have. Uh, Supreme Court passed a law or had a ruling in like the late '90s that basically said you can't sentence anyone to life prison or the death penalty if they're under 18. So they reopened this case. All that he actually got out last day. Now, I don't know what he's doing because he reached out to me once or twice, and I was like, this is where the Good Samaritan shit stops. Because like I don't know him. Like, he was in jail. I was born in '85. He was born went to jail. Not I don't know him. There is nothing we could possibly do. I don't have time for that shit. Let's stop the story there. He had a brother that was born in '92. So he wasn't even born when he was, or rather, he wasn't even born when he was out of prison. And that motherfucker right now serving a 12 to 24-year sentence, probably gonna get a few more years because he had a prior home invasion, got out, got to the dope, got pinched by a snitch. He had like 200 packets of fentanyl heroin. And then when he got out on bail, he went and smoked the dude that set him up. So this is wow. So he got you remember Miriam, the lawyer who lives in DC.
Yeah. Yeah.
I asked her about like the case, and her exact words were, "Oh, he's about to get, as we say, retired. Like he'll be in jail for the rest of his life. He got 4 kids, 4 different mamas and shit. It's nuts." But that's how powerful the environment is. 2 different dudes born to the same mom in the same environment, never met, ended up the exact same place. It's that wild, and I don't want to touch that because my mom was the only conduit for those relationships, and now that
Mm.
she's gone, I don't have to, remotely think about my son, hanging out with these people.
There are environmental cues that we kind of peripherally like take, even just subconsciously a little bit sometimes too. Um,
Oh, you take in everything. Like, I've read about mimetics before. Like, just it's one of the fundamental. I would argue it's the most fundamental instinct of the human organism. We copy behavior. That's what we do. Everybody does it. It's always going to happen. You can't make it not happen. So you can use that to your advantage, or it can be to your disadvantage. Now, as you become an adult, like part of, I'd say maturation is realizing like, okay, I can influence myself. I can't keep blaming my parents for shit. Yeah, and you could basically say like when you are a fully grown adult, when you recognize you have control over your own behavior, you're no longer going to attribute stuff to childhood, and you make your own destiny. Uh, at the same time, a lot of people are more or less cursed because they grew up in environments where they got programmed with bad behavior, and they're more or less never going to deprogram. They're never going to defrag the human mind that is their hard drive. It's always going to be causing them disaster.
it's like an
So does
algorithm.
life.
And like when people do the work, as you know,
I'm playing Miss Rachel right now.
what's Miss Rachel? Why do you both know
Who's Miss Rachel? All right, all right. There's life before you knew about Miss Rachel, and there's life after. And the only reason why you learn about who Miss Rachel is, unless you're a weirdo, is when you have a kid.
So one of the ways when you have kids and you're like, I mean, Ed could tell you the same thing. When the life before you have kids, life after you have kids, it's like there's a whole world that you didn't know exists of just shit for kids, right? So, one of the things when you're trying to find like wholesome influences, where it's like, okay, we want like give them something to watch, something that holds his attention. And my wife found this lady on YouTube. Her name's Miss Rachel, and she makes like educational videos for children. And she's like in her 40s, but she has like a very young, precocious appearance, and her videos are great. Like they're designed for
Yeah, great.
babies by the age of 5.
The story is I guess her child was having difficulty
Yeah,
speaking. That's
special
why
needs.
she does the whole like slow
like
close thing with
Montessori?
the mouth and
Mhm. Like what?
yes, like Montessori.
Montessori
Yeah.
method
So
was
her
also
videos are
developed
like,
for special needs.
oh, okay, I didn't know that. So, but like the video's 30, 60 minutes long. they're really good videos. This lady must be making bank from her YouTube channel. She's got like
Oh,
4 million subscribers now because of COVID too. People putting this on for their kids. But you realize like this holds their attention, right? Because she like it shows her face gestures, she talks slowly, it's intercut with like, animals and other families. They're just song and dance. Now, the thing is, as an adult, when you hear this stuff, it literally like melts your brain, right? Because I know when I turn this on, if I ever have to like listen to it, I'm probably losing brain tissue. But at the same time, like I'll put in my own headphones. I'm like, all right, he's doing that. I'm doing this. Cool. But I got it on my phone right now. I turned the volume down, but he just is fascinated to look at it. So,
you know what's funny about Miss Rachel? So this woman from across the pond, wow. Oh, from the UK, she's like, my daughter speaks with an American accent now because of Miss Rachel.
mm,
This is watching. And then somebody commented, this is payback for Pepper the Pig. Hey, I didn't know one of those things that you didn't know them existed if you didn't have kids. Then, but like you can't get like 10,000 likes. Because all these parents was like, well, commented, yeah, my 5-year-old was asking to go on holiday.
yeah. And this is all stuff like I don't want to say I feel uncool now, but again, when you have kids and then you talk about like
You
kid stuff with
just
non-kid
in a different
with
world,
single
man.
people, you're like, I have no ability to relate to your shit anymore. Like
It's it's
what are you worrying about?
But it's cool because I always say that like now it's just a different club. Like it's a completely different club, and it's a club with like most of the members are all right. Now they ain't all right, but they got the same kind of common. They speak the same language with the same general goals, uh and it's just a life phase, and it's one of those things you can't like you can't imagine it if you it's just I don't know how I would. Like if I was what are you, 25, 6, 7?
I'm
Get
28.
that right? Somewhere in there, somewhere late 20. Oh, no shit. Well, there you go. Well, 10 years younger.
Dun
Oh,
dun dun.
yeah, like it's just a
Well,
different it's a different world.
no, and
But
it's
but
kind of
it's
cool to
cool.
think
Dun
about
dun.
how
But don't rush into it because that fucking because you in it for at least 18 years, but longer than that, realistically. But like at least it starts the moment you find out she's pregnant. They don't. So it really is at least 20 years, man. It's a long time. That's about as long as my cousin got. So that's so yeah,
no,
that's nuts.
it's cool to think of
Uh,
like how the intersection between the way you both think and navigate life is now coming full circle to like informing very foundational formative years of another human. I mean, that's full circle right there. We've been on for an hour and a
and
half.
it's really fun.
I don't know if you guys uh have a hard stop at in the
I
second hour or anything like
I
that. I
well
wanna
I'm
go,
gonna go.
but what?
Huh? Did you?
Wait, what did
I
you
didn't
say?
hear you.
No, I was gonna say before we go, I want you guys.
Repeat the last thing you said, Trina.
Oh, it's all a connection. Um, before we go, I do want to like ask if there's anything people can find online from you right now, or kind of
No,
just
promote. Is there anything you want to promote, Ed?
like new that you're doing.
Oh no, I've got nothing to. I mean, I always say that, and that's just not true. I'm well because I'm launching my community. We'll see how that goes. It might be a bust. It might not. I'm excited to do it because it's the first product I've put out that is focused completely around me and the stuff that I have learned to do. I had to figure out a productized mindset basically, but not
Mm.
call it mindset because that's almost as big of an anathema as personal branding. So you figure out a way to call it something different. So we'll see how that goes. So there's that and me writing this book. I mean, that's my life right now and the baby. But that I'm not pitching him.
I never know how to wrap these things up, and I
So
request other people
yeah,
be like, "Oh, where can people find you?"
no,
So
I mean,
just
like I obviously, I obviously everyone knows this from Twitter. I assume. Yeah, like I have a newsletter. I have 3 things I'm working on. One is I'm creating a product. It's called the Weekend Warrior. It's a serious product. Basically, I want to. So my business has been built on marketing to guys like age 20 to 45 who really want to be fit in shape, get that sorted. But there's this whole audience of like, legitimately like entrepreneurs, professionals. There's people that most of the market of American fitness, they just want like 2 workouts a week, and like, is there a solution for that? So I thought like, why don't I actually target that market seriously? So I really started investigating what is the minimum effective dose for exercise? Like, what's like the least you can do to get the most? It's about 2, 3 hours a week. So I'm building a product around that. And it's not going to be like for my main audience per se, but I think it will have huge potential for like the larger, social, mainstream audience, um, mainstream marketplace. So I think it will do really well. So I'm making a product first, then I'm gonna do a book. And then, sometime next year, 2024, I'm actually going to publish like a full fitness book, basically. And that'll be intended to be like an Amazon kind of bestseller. It'll have a bunch of chapters in it and just cover, it's sort of like almost comparable to like, Stronger for Life or like Bigger, Leaner, Stronger. Like, okay, let's get the number one book ranked. Let's just use that as the sort of gateway to maybe, upsells. And then, maybe I can say like I'm a published author. And the other book I've been working on like very slowly is written like a book for young men. Like, okay, like I'm 35 now. I'll be 35 next year. I'm a dad. If I had to tell you, like young guys in their 20s, like 10 things to sort of live a good life, me talking to my 20-year-old self, what do I tell them? For that formative decade. Of course, at the same time, I'm always selling stuff. That's my business, right? But that's what's in the pipeline.
Cool. Like, sounds like a both of you are working on some version of like a magnum opus of your journey, which is cool.
Man, you know how I look at it? I look at it as everything is just the beginning. Like no matter what, 10 years into this shit, it's just the beginning. And then
So
like I really believe that. I don't know. Like so we'll see. Hopefully it goes great.
it is gonna go
And,
great.
and look, if not, you know what I found out the other day? Here's a crazy thing I found out. I wasn't even trying to find this out. It just jumped in my like my view. So there's like mad writing jobs on LinkedIn. Like if you can write, somebody will pay you like six
No, you
figures to write for them. I was like,
If
what the
any of us, oh,
fuck?
like,
Like they're like
Twitter
real
local,
hiring.
as soon as a Twitter local steps onto the LinkedIn scene, it's like, whoa, it's almost like a whole what we think of Twitter as, but like obviously not as chill. But like all the opportunities so on tap. I really should go over there too, but it's the platform doesn't.
Like it's crazy because I wasn't like I clicked on something on accident and I was like, wow, there are a lot of like y'all paying cats $50 an hour to write blog posts.
yeah,
Like what? And not like $50 a blog post. It's like 3 hours a post. I'm like, God damn.
bill 'em.
So
If you can
yeah,
write, you'll always eat if you can write. Like we don't appreciate it enough since we're on Twitter and everybody writes on Twitter because it's Twitter. But writing is like it's a super skill. Like most people don't feel confident doing it. And companies of every size, like Jesus, having a good marketing person that hey, we need someone to actually make the copy. And I don't just mean
yeah,
copywriting, but like we need someone to write and manage all these platforms, or just like even like the high level products. I mean, you go to if I go to fucking Cadillac dealership, pull out a brochure for a fucking vehicle, someone had to write that shit.
right. It's
So who's doing that?
and yeah, I think people. There's a lot of guys, man, that they would be well served. Like
Nope.
this is not for me because of the position I put myself in, but it's a lot of guys where they could be living very well, respectably, and building real connections just by working with somebody else, man. You ain't always got to because working with somebody else ain't what it used to be. It used to be you was locked down in a location. Shit, now you can work with somebody else, man, and spend all your time in the Iberian Peninsula. It's just
Everybody's got
chilling.
a side hustle now.
Right. It's like it's to the point now where like I was thinking about this. I don't have the time. I was like, I could get a job as a side hustle. And I was like, okay, that's where the full like they have a lot of room. But yeah, on that note, I'm off to see my chorizo guy. I met these Guatemalans, man. They bring the shit up and season it uh perfectly. It's beautiful. But they live on the other side of town now. They used to be in food trucks that came around, but now they've moved to business. So I'm gonna take my son and we're gonna go get I had to put an order in for 10 pounds. But it's dope because it's good stuff.
How to hustle 10 pounds of chorizo with the
Chorizo.
kid. I love that. Well, I really
Oh, for
appreciate you
sure,
guys
man. That's
coming on.
when
Just
I
jam.
drop a hybrid. I'm a weird dude. Uh,
Thanks for coming on, guys, and just shooting the shit with
Yeah,
me.
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. My wife made me a sandwich an hour and a half ago, so I'm gonna go eat that finally.
there you go.
Much
It
love,
was
guys.
nice seeing everybody.
Yeah, it was good to see you too in
Much
the
love.
same.
Good to see you both.
Oh yeah, make sure you stay on Alex because like
Mhm.
you know how Riverside works and shit. And you too, Trina. You can't like leave. It's got to say uploaded complete.
Oh, I got
I'm
it.
gonna leave the
Great.
call now. And
Love your families. Oh, here.
Cool.
Thanks for
Good
coming
talking to
on.
you, Trina.
Good to see you. Bye.
Adios, Sonny.